Yo, what is up, ZZZ Parks? This is your boy Josh, and today we are finally privy to the two drip marketed characters of 1.2. And yes, I actually made a small video on Caesar King just yesterday. If you want to check out that video and more in particular about Caesar King, make sure you guys go visit our last Zenless video on that. But today we just got drip marketed Bernice White, and honestly she looks really cute. I love the the twin tail, pigtail look. She looks very fiery. But now comes the question of who you should be looking or who you should be trying to attempt to pull for going into 1.1 and 1.2. These two patches span 12 weeks, which is just around, what was it, like just under 3-ish months, which means that is a lot of time in order to like build up resources, or even to, again, if you're going to pull for these characters, expend resources. So going into the sort of near future, who should you be looking forward to out of these four limited S-tier agents? Now, before we go forward, I need you guys to make sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel and like every video that comes out, because at the drop of 1.1, we are going to be hosting a $100 Ching Yi poll session giveaway. Yes, we are going to pull for the winner on the day of the drop, Wednesday. Make sure you guys are subscribed, like, and comment on every video that has come out concerning any of the 1.1 content. So we've made 2 Ching Yi videos. We're making this video, and then we are going to release a Ching Yi guide video. You want to comment, like, and watch all of them so that you guys can enter into our community giveaway. Now back to the meat and the potatoes of what we're talking about today. It is the 1.1 and 1.2 S tier agents. Now, of course, I left out Seth Lowell just because he is going to go into the rotation, or the standard rotation of characters, very much like your Genshins and Honkai Star Wars. We will see Seth Lowell joining the A tier cast, versus these characters we know when their limited banners are going up or when they're not available at all. Taking a look at these four, again, you guys can go off aesthetics, and that's not why you're here at this video. If you're just going off aesthetics, well, I mean, if you're into androids, then you know your answer. If you're into mice, there's your answer. If you're into Yola from Genshin Impact, you know your answer. And then if you're into pyromancy, then you have your answer there. Let's go over these four characters to, describe to you their kits, as well as to kind of break down what the characters niche into, as well as what their value is going forward into the game. And let's start with the 1.1 cast. Of course, we should be starting with the first banner, and that's going to be the banner of Ching Yi. Now, Ching Yi comes to us as an electric stun character. Now, we've covered this archetype before. If you guys want to check out the actual deep dive into Ching Yi, her kit, and her value, please go visit the video in the timestamp right there. And then you guys can come back to this video and then get, the cliff notes. TLDR, looking at her value now, it definitely has increased as one of the best potential stunners in the game. That's no doubt. However, when it comes to her value really lies within the damage multiplier. And that damage multiplier can range from 230 to almost upwards of 258 at M2 plus, which is sort of her breakpoint in terms of, that disparity of character, going from, more stun focused character that, sort of is honestly pretty middling as an S tier unit, to becoming just probably one of the best overall value units in the game at M2. Again, this is not to take away from Ching Yi's M0 value. It's just that, again, her role as a electric stunner is kind of covered by Ambi already. Again, if you're at M0, I would say even you'd clear maybe 10 or 20% faster than Ambi. Is that value for you? If it is, then of course I'd say go for Ching Yi. Again, time is actually a very valuable asset to gain by shaving off that time. Again, you take a look at Shiyu defenses, right? That's our main end game content right now. Time is of the essence, right? It's basically a time trial. And if you can shave off that time, that is value right there. So Ching Yi provides that, 20, 30, 40 second, decrease in time. Really good. But I digress. That is Ching Yi. If you find value in that, of course, go for her. Jane Doe. Jane Doe is our second half banner of the 1.1 patch, and she comes to us as a physical anomaly S tier character. Now, we've gone privy to physical anomaly already with the presence of Piper. Now, Piper actually, even before the actual launch of the game in the closed betas, we didn't really get to see Piper all too much. Piper and in respects to Lucy, those two characters are now in tandem as A tier units, one of the best teams in the game, which is absolutely ridiculous and goes to show actually the potential of Anomaly. Now, Jane Doe, we've seen a portion of her kit, and I don't really want to talk about the kit aspect until she actually gets, more information released, because as a Hoyo creator, I cannot talk about the actual inner workings of her kit. However, she is incredibly consistent at outpouring damage, in particular physical damage, and thus leading to assault damage, or the physical anomaly attribute, which Jane Doe is incredible. She is absolutely disgusting as a unit, and to the value of physical anomaly, then again, we already have Piper, right? So whereas Ching Yi, we have Ambi, with Jane Doe, we have Piper, and therein lies a sort of issue to where you see Ambi getting to work with characters like Nicole. So you have, that back end support of the stunner and support, right? You have the Nicole and the Ambi core, and then you tack in Juliet, right? You tack in Nekomata, right? You can even tack in characters like Soldier, and you'll be perfectly fine because the resonance is within the cunning hairs, right? Whereas Jane Doe, her resonance is coming through the PubSec, faction, which includes Julian, of course, Ching Yi, and Seth Lowell. None of those characters which actually benefit Jane Doe. So herein lies the issue, where now if you are going for Jane Doe, you actually have to look for a better tandem or better three core team to be able to support that physical anomaly damage. Now, let's say you can even go into, Jane Doe, Lucy, Piper. That team is actually not even that bad to begin with, right? You have the double physical, and then you have Lucy to support, and then the two physicals already just mesh well with each other because they build up to the anomaly anyways. So that's probably going to be Jane Doe's best team. However, getting Lucy and Piper is incredibly difficult right now, and I'm not gonna say that means Jane Doe's value goes down, but as of the current meta, because we don't see a lot of pairings with Jane Doe, it's sort of hard to see her true potential realize until later down the road when we get more physical support characters, yada, yada, yada. Now, talking about physical supports, let's go over to the 1.2 drip marketed characters. Firstly, we're going to be starting with Caesar King. Now, for most folks, you guys have seen the drip marketing little teaser trailer for her. She absolutely looks gorgeous. Her JP voice actor is the voice actor of Eula, which makes complete sense. If you put, the little top hat on, she looks like Vil V from HI3. Caesar King is somewhat of a, pseudo recognizable archetype of character. Yet she has that very, just Mad Max vibe and look to her. She looks incredible. But aside from the aesthetics, we're here to talk about what type of characters they are. And Caesar King comes to us as our first physical defense character. Now, defense has been a somewhat underwhelming class, right? Ben Bigger has been pretty solid as a, defense unit in tandem with your Kaledas, of course. Now we come to the physical side. There actually is a lot of avenues that you can take Caesar King. In particular, let's talk about some of the physical offensive characters. Let's talk about some of those physical offensive characters. In particular, of course, the one that comes to mind is Piper. Right. And then subsequently now, past 1.1, we will already have received Jane Doe. So that would be Piper and Jane Doe in our physical offensive slots. And then don't forget, we still have characters like Nekomata. We have characters like Billy, and we have characters like Corin. A lot of people are sleeping on the physical characters, especially because they don't have that sort of backing of a physical support. Where Caesar comes as a defense character, that doesn't mean that Caesar King won't have any, buffing or, defense shred debuffing capabilities. And I assume that's what Caesar King is actually going to be bringing through her defensive kit. I've speculated in my previous video on Caesar King that she would potentially bring, certain parries or, be able to absorb damage the more damage she absorbs. And then, she'd dish out like a larger debuff, defense shred, or she'll do more damage XYZ. I feel like Caesar King is going to be the premier physical support. Now, I say support as a generalized term just because I categorize characters as either offensive or support, whereas support comes in the form of, defense, actual support, buffing, debuffing, and healing to support the offensive characters. Hopefully that makes sense. So Caesar King being that overarching, more supportive type of character, I feel like a lot of those either anomaly attribute characters or even the just pure physical DPS characters are going to benefit from Caesar King. Now, I'll talk about overarching value comparisons at the very end, but let's go on to the last character. Now, oh my goodness, she absolutely looks super cute. I love the vibe. I love the flamethrowers. The gold-plated flamethrowers are crazy. But Bernice White comes to us as a Sons of Kaladin faction again. So we're getting 2 back-to-back Sons of Kaladin, which is quite interesting because, in the previous 1.1 patch, we've gone to PubSec characters. Here with Burnice and with Caesar King, we're getting 2 Sons of Kaladin. And for those who are wondering why it's kind of shaking out like that, it's because it's tied to the story. So you take a look at chapter 3.5 or the interlude of chapter 3, that it is related to, again, the PubSec story. And then you take a look at chapter 4, it's actually related to the outskirt land. So that's where we're going to meet the Sons of Kaladin. Now, Burnice comes to us as our very first fire anomaly character. And if you take a look at, our 2 front-running anomaly characters right now, that being, of course, Grace, and then you have Piper, we know that the anomaly class can outpour some insane damage with slightly less investment. Building these anomaly characters are actually much more simple than building your quintessential DPS characters. What does this mean for Bernice? Meaning that she is easy to build, right? She is an S tier character. That means she is going to be getting a signature weapon. Signature weapons generally are drastic, steps above your average A tier or even just regular anomaly S tier W engine options. So Bernice at the high end could see really crazy damage, but even at the low end, fire anomaly, you're still getting great value off of just being able to outpour or just use your flamethrower and burn everything in sight. Before we move on to the comparisons, again, I cannot actually talk about their kits or reveal anything that is not officially released by Hoyoverse. So far as, in particular, Caesar and Bernice, but we can still speculate about their entries as well as their niche and overall value. So let's do that right now. So we're back to this screen where we have Qingyi, Jane Doe, Caesar King, and Bernice White. Now, who you guys should be choosing, here are my impressions as well as opinions on the value of the characters. Now, again, this is just pure kit value as well as, niche and, box value. Let's start off, unfortunately, with Ching Yi. Now, again, this does not mean that she isn't, potent or, very strong or could be very strong for your particular box. But in terms of the niches that she kind of already crosses over with Ambi, as well as, again, not getting as much budget value from her, I see her as the least valued character out of the 1.1 and 1.2 dripped characters. Does this mean that you should be changing the forecast of what you should be pulling? I don't think so. I think if you are planning to pull for Ching Yi, definitely go for it. If you have the W engine and the drives already farmed for it, which I do, I'm already pulling for Ching Yi. So that's that. But again, if you can go for the M2, really just jumps up in that value there and really justifies her almost probably even more valuable than the other characters. But again, that comes with a little bit more investment, which the game hasn't really given us a lot of resources at the start. It's kind of unfortunate, but if you do have a little money to spend, I think Qingyi M2 is that breakpoint. Definitely go for it. Next is great value. Now, this could change, depending on what our kit entails going into 1.1, where we start to learn a little bit more about Caesar King and our kit and gameplay style. But as far as defense, we're not terribly sure where defense actually lies currently. And I'm even more high on Lucy, who already has, realized potential, right? Lucy as a great attack buffer, right? Just absolutely is able to bring out some of the best of the Sons of Kaladin characters. Whereas Caesar, it still comes as a what if, especially if we don't necessarily know what the defense class can bring. Not terribly high on the defense characters, especially even if you take a look at some of the, let's say, defensive W engines. They scale on HP, and if she's a defense scaler, she's absolutely cooked. If you get her signature, she's fine. But if you don't get her signature, she's rocking with a 3-star budget W engine. Terrible. So just, again, managing our expectations of Caesar King, not too sure where she's going to lie, but I feel like since she is our very first S tier defensive unit, we could see her ranging from maybe even B to A tier. Then let's talk about the better valued characters, that being Jane Doe and Bernice White. Now, I put amazing value in question marks because we know this about offensive or DPS oriented characters. Now, what is that we know? And for those who have played gacha games, this is a tale as old as time. The meta always changes. What does that mean? That means the meta, in particular, especially with gacha games, and how gacha games really, and their number one priority is to instill FOMO. Through instilling FOMO, they push out the agenda of the particular limited character that they are trying to promote or trying to sell. So when it comes to 1.1, we are going to see a lot more physical oriented stages and, enemies that have physical weakness. We are definitely going to see those pop up, in particular with, end game Shiryu defenses, maybe even new Hollow Zero. I'm not terribly sure if there's new game modes, but for sure, the new story content, maybe even a new boss, wink, wink, could be weakened or ailed by the physical attributes. So I think Jane Doe, of course, in 1.1 is going to be that signature character. Like, wow, everybody's like, oh my goodness, she's crazy. She's S tier, of course. Everybody's weak to physical, right? But do not be a slave of the times. Let's take a look going into 1.2. We could see more fire characters popping up in the standings when Burnice comes out and more stages are ailed or weak to fire element. That means your soldier 11s, Lucy isn't really that big of a fire damage dealer, but that also means Kaledas and Ben Biggers, right? As the support roles. So we don't really have a lot of fire oriented characters. So as for the value, I think Burnice actually edges out a little bit on Jane Doe, just because, as I mentioned before, two things. Jane Doe already covers a niche that Piper already covers. Yet, there isn't a PubSec duo for Jane Doe, very, unlike the Ching Yi and Jushoea combo, right? Or the Seth Lowell and Jushoea combo. Let's not really mention Ching Yi and Seth. Not too great. You probably just do better with Nicole, to be honest. So, in particular with Jushoea, she has Ching Yi or Jushoea and Seth. Where does that leave Jane Doe, right? She doesn't have a physical support right now, unless you pull for Caesar King. So this kind of comes as like, not really a catch-22, but it comes as a, if you have this, then you need this, right? Which is a little bit concerning, especially this early into the game. So I'd rather have a unit that could stand a little bit more on their own legs. And that character is definitely Bernice White. But at the end of the day, it matters about what you think. So gamers, proxies, let me know which of these characters you are going to be pulling. Hopefully we outlaid a lot of their value, their niches, and then kind of going through what each character can bring to the table. If you guys found value in this little TED Talk, make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to see more Zenless Zone Zero content. And just as a reminder, make sure you guys like and comment on every video because you want to be entered into our community Ching Yi $100 pull session. And with that, it's your boy Josh. Make sure you guys tune in to our Twitch streams as well as we go live Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for Genshin and Zenless Zone Zero. We'll see you guys on live. We'll see you guys in the next YouTube video. Oh, talking about YouTube video, click on this next one here because YouTube thinks you'll like it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.